The Blocktalk Podcast started because of my passion for the property management industry. I wanted to start a conversation and add some value within the industry with a diverse range of people and professionals who can add something extra. As we start out, my aim is that the podcast offers some useful insight into a variety of views, opinions, thoughts, and foresights from our guests, who include business leaders and industry experts. If you enjoy the podcast and want to find out any other information, head on over to brianwelsh.co.uk. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Blocktalk Podcast. A bit different today. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by two of the CPL Software team who might actually still be recovering. We'll find out in a minute. From their recent achievement conquering the Three Peaks Challenge. Damien, Porter and Tom Beswick. So we'll be chatting to them in a second. We also have Helen Doyle, People and Culture Director, who kind of organised all this stuff. And also have the pleasure of inviting back Andy Bright again. Andy is the Corporate Partnerships Co-ordinator for Action for Pulmonary Fibrosis, a CPL Software's Charity of the Year, which is the reason behind Tom and Damien. Well, it says on my bit of paper, braving. I think I would probably use possibly a different word, but never mind. So welcome to all of you. I'll start with you, Andy. Andy, how's it going? How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I hope you are too. Lots going on at the moment, both in work and personally. I think It's been a while since we last talked, but since we spoke last, I've turned 60 and welcomed two more grandchildren into the family.
Wow. You sound like your life is busier than mine. Gosh, that's amazing. So let's get into it. 7. Wow, that's an achievement. That must take a lot of hard work as well. So, geez.
It takes a lot of breath.
Yes. So, Damien, Tom, how are you both? Tom, let's start with you.
I'm good. I would like to say I've fully recovered. However, I did go to the gym this morning. My knee's starting to niggle me a little bit. So maybe not fully recovered, but I'm getting there. It was a difficult week the following week. The first day after we completed it was a struggle. But I'm definitely getting back to full fitness now.
Fabulous. Damien, how are you?
Pretty much recovered. Took me about 7 days. My calves were burning right up until the following weekend, and
wow.
Yeah, it was one hell of a challenge, and pretty much recovered, thankfully.
Good. So, right, what I need to understand first of all, though, is whose idea was this, right? So, how did it come about? Who do we have to blame? It was Helen's. Helen's idea? Oh wow, okay. So what made you suggest it?
And I was because we were doing a big challenge that was spanned a number of months already, and I wanted to do another big thing that was going to be like not a sort of 5 or 10K, which is great and great achievement, but something that Tom and Damien have done those things numerous times before, and I wanted to do something for them that they hadn't done before, and they're both interested. They both like a challenge. But I feel terrible because I suggested it for them and I didn't obviously participate myself. But believe me, guys, I wouldn't have made it up the first one, let alone all 3.
Fabulous. Okay, so Tom, do you want to tell us about your kind of individual experience on the challenge? Nevis, then Scafell Pike, and then Snowdon. So tell us give us a bit of insight.
Yeah, so Nevis, I think, was the one that I was most nervous for because I had previously done kind of training hikes up Scafell and Snowdon. Snowdon I'd done a couple of times and pretty easily, I would say. But that was when I was fresh. Scafell I did on a training hike, and we kind of added an extra 10k onto the normal route. So I thought Scafell will be okay. So Ben Nevis I was nervous about, and I'd been ill, a week and a half or so beforehand. So I still had a bit of a residual cough. But I thought, I should be okay. I'd plugged a Monster, so I'd had a lot of caffeine, a lot of sugar. But the guy just set off like a rocket, and I thought, oh my God, is this going to be the pace for the entire challenge? Because this is fast. And so we're going up, and it's tricky. And we were lucky that we had fantastic weather. But that made it so much hotter because we were packed up. It was quite cool at the base, but as soon as you're getting going, it's very quick that you start increasing the body temperature. Yeah. But we managed to keep a decent pace. I was managing to stay up front with the guys. They were a couple of minutes ahead, so they'd stop at each kind of corner and we would regroup. But by the time I'd reached them, because I was a couple of minutes behind, they'd set off again. I was like, well, I've not had the rest, so I just had to keep carrying on as just kind of playing catch up. But we managed to summit together, which was nice. And the summit of Nevis was covered in snow, which you kind of weren't expecting with it being so warm on the way up. And so it was a little bit emotional to get to the top of Nevis, knowing that you've not done it before. And it's the biggest one. And it was like, right, we've kicked this off. We've done it. We've got the first one out of the way. But loads of people do Nevis. It's not a challenge in itself per se.
Okay, I wouldn't maybe agree with that, but okay.
Do it. We managed. So we managed to get up and down Nevis in pretty decent time. I think the first of us were arriving back at the visitor centre at about 4:45. And the average time to Nevis is about 8 hours. So we were really motoring, which was good because we could build a little bit of time in hand. We then moved on to Scafell. So in between Nevis and Scafell, there's a 7-hour drive. It's a long time sat in the bus. And I've got to say, the bus was not particularly roomy. As soon as I sat down, I had about 3 to 4 millimetres maybe of room between my knee and the seat in front, but that was before we reclined. So it was a little bit cramped. But nonetheless, I think we were just more thankful that we had the rest after doing, a 5-hour hike. So it wasn't too bad. So we stopped about 3.5 hours in, got some food, and got to Scafell Pike about 8 o'clock that evening. And then that's kind of felt like that's where the challenge started a little bit for me. It's like, right, we're on the second mountain now. Not often that people will do that within the same day. And again, we were really lucky that we had fantastic weather. It was warm going up again, and the sun was setting, so we had fantastic views. But it was a bit more of a challenge getting up Scafell, for me at least. I found about halfway up, my hip extensor on my left leg just wouldn't lift. I couldn't lift my left leg up high enough to put my foot in front of it. And so I had to drag out the poles at that point. And so kind of digging the poles in, pull myself up and kind of just let my left leg dangle to the point where it was far enough in front of me that I could kind of take the step up. And so that kind of went on for a few K until we managed to reach the summit. And then the way down was a little bit sketchy because it was pitch black and we all had head torches on. And you see these nutters kind of flying past you in the middle of the night, trying to kind of get ahead and realising actually it's probably not the best thing because it's all screed at the top of Scafell, so it's very treacherous. But we made our way down fairly safely, lights on. We got down, I think, around about 1 o'clock in the morning. And so then it was a case of, right, now we've got a 5.5 hour drive, and they'd advised us this was the time to sleep. And so that drive, you can imagine no kind of leg room. I stupidly didn't bring a change of clothes, and so I was in the same clothes that I'd worn at the beginning of Nevis up and down, Scafell up and down. So I was like wet. My clothes were wet; they were soaked with sweat. And then they put the air conditioner on the van, so I was shivering. It was awful. That was wholly my mistake because everybody else had brought them. So it was fairly cold night's sleep, kind of head against the window, as you keep slipping down. It's kind of that broken sleep. And then eventually the sun comes up and you just think, I'll just stay up now. But the problem that I experienced was that I'd been told sugar and caffeine is what you need. Sugar and caffeine, sugar and caffeine. So what did I do? The whole time for the whole 2 mountains before was literally sugar and caffeine. So it was energy gels, Trek bars, and Monster energy drinks. And so it was a case of my stomach had been absolutely ripped to shreds on the inside. So I got off the bus at Snowdon and I was like, I'm going to be sick. I'm going to vomit everywhere. And my blood sugar just plummeted to the floor. So I was shivering and I was going to throw up. And so I've been force-fed salted peanuts by our guides to try and bring my appetite back, at which point my knees started to really, really be painful. And so Damien and I were kind of stuck at the back of the group, and we were just trying to haul ourselves up Snowdon. It was very much a case of there was no time. We weren't thinking about how fast we could do it. It's literally a case of let's just get to the top. And Damien, I'm sure, would much have preferred to kind of motor on, but my knee was in absolute agony. It was like somebody had got a nail and just hammered it through the side of it. And I was told, it's popping quite a bit with the pain. And I was told if it's popping, it's okay. But if it pops and you get this searing pain, we need to stop because that's when you've torn your ligaments. I was like, oh Christ, I hope that doesn't happen. But we kind of stuck together. We gave ourselves encouragement, and we did manage to get to the top of Snowdon through a world of pain, but we did it. And so it was a battle. It was a battle, to say the least. I'm sure David's probably got his own stories to tell. I've been rambling for a while, but yeah, it was a challenge for sure.
That's amazing. I can imagine it would be, because it's not an easy thing to do. Yeah.
No, it was surprising actually how many other people we'd spot on the way up that were also doing the challenge. You'd see somebody and you'd clock them on Nevis, and all of a sudden you'd see them later that night on Scaffold Pike. It was really surprising. You'd think that you'd be the only people. And when we were going up Snowdon, we were going so slowly, and you're kind of a little bit embarrassed about how slowly you're going up. So I kind of wanted a flag to say, well, we're doing the 3 peaks. We're just at the end of it. We're not really this slow.
Okay, Damien, tell us about your experience of it then.
My experience, before we started, I was nervous. I thought because Tom's so much younger than me that I was going to be the oldest person on the group. But then we met everybody else that was on the bus with us, and everybody was probably my age or a bit older. So I thought, oh, yeah, I'll be fit enough to be able to handle this. But as Tom mentioned, we arrived at Nevis and we started to walk up Nevis, and the group of walkers just left me for dead. Within half an hour, I was trying to keep the pace, but that was my first mental challenge. I felt like I was already burnt out within half an hour. And
that first bit of Nevis is actually quite steep, isn't it? So yeah. The first bit of Nevis does go up a bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
I had done Nevis before, and I had done it in pretty good time, but the pace was just too much, and my fitness obviously wasn't as good as it used to be. So I turned to the guide and I said, listen, I don't think I'm going to be able to get to the top because I can't keep the pace. And he told me, take small steps, go at your own pace, and that bit of advice, that encouragement just got me to keep going, keep putting one foot forward. And I got to the top not long after Tom, and I was proud of myself. And then we got down, as Tom said, jumped back on the bus, and I called my girlfriend, and I was making plans to go out for dinner on Sunday and, have a few drinks and celebrate. And she goes, you haven't done the second and third one. So, to cut a long story short, that meal and drinks didn't happen. But I'd never come down a hill like Nevis and had to jump on a bus and get ready to do it again second time around. So, again, Tom and the group took off pretty fast, and Scaffold Pike, you can see how tall Scaffold Pike is from the bottom. You know where you have to walk to. So that was a mental challenge as well.
Yeah.
It's pretty steep. Even though it's the smallest of the 3 peaks, it's really steep. And it was, I felt like giving up a lot, that having the walking sticks were a lifesaver because, like Tom, I was struggling to lift my legs up steps every so often. Refueling, having plenty of water and protein bars and energy drinks and stuff like that got me to the top as well. But we got down Scaffold Pike, and then really in between each walk I was taking painkillers as well because my legs and my hip and my back and everything was seizing up. So,
Oh gosh.
ibuprofen was good. And getting to, as Tom said, I did have a change of clothes, but we were trying to change outside behind the bus after every climb, so you could only take off so much.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was taking off my top. I was changing my top, but I couldn't change much else. Change my socks and stuff. And then it was, I think, 4.5 hour drive or 5.5 hour drive from Scaffold to Snowdon. So I took some more painkillers, and even though we were very lucky with the weather, the climates were all slightly different. Like Snowdon, first thing on the Sunday morning was freezing. I was wearing 3 layers, but it was freezing cold. And I was quite happy that Tom was going slow at that point, because I, for once, didn't feel as much pressure doing Snowdon. I was physically okay, but I was happy to go at a slower pace and to just get to the top and celebrate the achievement.
Good.
And I take my hat off to Tom, because he was in a serious amount of pain and wasn't well, so it was a hell of an effort to get to the top of Snowdon for him.
No, I know. I'm very proud of both of you. I mean, I've done Nevis once before. I need to ask a question. Was Nevis, on the top of Nevis, was it clear, or was it all cloudy?
It was pretty clear.
Was it?
A bit overcast, but you could see, you could see around certain parts of the landscapes.
Wow.
So,
that's impressive. Yeah.
And it was just pure cloud.
Well, I've only ever been up at once. I doubt. Yes. Well, you couldn't see that when I did it. I did it 2016 for charity, and it was from quite low down. You were walking through clouds. So yeah. Okay. Fabulous. Right. Let's crack on. Oh yeah. Sorry. One question that's on this list that I haven't asked. Would you do it again?
No.
Wow.
I don't at the moment no, but if I get talked into it in the future for charity again, maybe.
Okay,
You'll have to go
cool.
your own that time, David.
So anybody watching or listening to this, so I think you should donate just on the basis that Damien has said he might do it again. Yeah, Tom's a definite no. I don't think I could do it. I mentioned it to my twin brother, and he just said, "There's no way in this earth, Brian, you're fit enough to do that." So yeah. In fact, he said I probably wasn't fit enough to just do Snowdon. So never mind. Okay, so Helen, give us a bit of background about the Charity of the Year, why we implemented it, and how it's going.
So yeah, the Charity of the Year scheme all kind of came about as part of our broader corporate social responsibility strategy. So my goal really was to create a sense of unity and purpose. I mean, we have that already through our day-to-day work, right? We're making property managers' lives easier, and they can, send those advantages on to the end user. And so there is that, but we wanted something else, something extra to work that would just bring everyone together, really. And I would say that it's certainly done that. Both this incredible achievement that Tom and Damien have done, which I obviously wasn't aware of any of this. I've deliberately not asked the guys questions. I'm just completely in awe of what you've done and what you went through. But we've also did the Office to Office Challenge, which was really good because it was done January, February, March, and we're all over the country here at CPL, so it just brought us all together, all the people that took part in the challenge. To recap, the challenge was we walked from the Scottish office down to the Southern office and back again virtually. So it was 862 miles, which a team of about 8, 9, 10 of us all kind of combined together to cover that distance. And it was so nice. It just brought everyone together, and we all kind of shared pictures, and it's still going now. The challenge is over, but we still have that community, that kind of sense of unity. And I think through all of that, you asked how it's going. So not only have we done that, but we were absolutely amazed to see how much we've raised for the charity so far. It's currently, just before the recording, between the two challenges stands at £2,255 that we've raised between the Office to Office Challenge and the Three Peaks Challenge. And that's a lot of that has obviously come from our generous sponsors of the challenge, but the Office to Office team, and also Damien and Tom have just done such amazing stuff with it. How we operate it is that the three of us are actually the charity committee. We think about, kind of get creative with ways, different challenges that we can do to raise money for our charity of the year, and also to raise awareness. And then we invite nominations from all of the team. Everybody gets to kind of be part of it. And then as a team, we whittle it down to 3 nominations of charities, and then put it out to public vote on LinkedIn. And that's where Action for Pulmonary Fibrosis comes in. That's somebody internally nominated them, the public vote voted for them, and then we're here working with Andy and the team, who've been absolutely wonderful. So it's really good. It's a really lovely scheme.
Cool. Thanks for that, Helen. Okay, that links us really well, actually, onto Andy, to be fair. Welcome again. I guess, can you remind the listeners or anyone who hasn't listened to the last podcast what pulmonary fibrosis is, what the charity does, and why funding is so important?
Yes, sure. Yeah. Firstly, thank you to CPL and particularly Tom and Damien for doing such a sterling effort. We do have challenges that are on the level that you can, no elevations at all. Talk to me about those. But pulmonary fibrosis is a group of interstitial lung diseases. It's simply known as scarring, lung scarring. So the scarring causes stiffness around the lungs, making it difficult to breathe, and more importantly, to transport oxygen from the lungs into the blood supply. So your body is starved of oxygen. When I had pulmonary fibrosis, and before my transplant, my oxygen was down to 21% of what it should be for a man of my age. So that's what pulmonary fibrosis does. So when I talked about it takes a lot of breaths earlier on, I wasn't being flippant. That's what it is. And to somebody who's got pulmonary fibrosis, just walking to the car could be their equivalent of Ben Nevis or Scarfell. So that's how pulmonary fibrosis affects the lungs. We estimate roughly that there are around 70,000 people in the UK with it currently, but also we think there's an additional 1,000 people being diagnosed every month.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Wow.
Okay. And so tell me, or explain again, what does the charity do and why is the funding so important?
Well, the charity was set up in 2013 by people who were involved with the disease. That's patients, healthcare professionals, and families of patients. We're a charity that's led by people living with pulmonary fibrosis. Now, by that I mean not just the patient, because obviously that it affects their family, their children, their grandchildren. And in my case, my co-workers, my co-used workers used to support me tremendously when I was living with it. But the charity is primarily designed to help people to live with pulmonary fibrosis well, so that they can enjoy a fulfilled life. We strive to improve the services for our patients and their families, and reach more people through the network of groups that we've got, our supply line, and other initiatives. We already know that certain segments of the patient community don't tend to come forward, and we want to make sure that we fully understand why they're doing that and make everything possible to make ourselves accessible to everyone. Every day we hear about delayed diagnoses, long waits for treatment, and trouble getting support. So we want to make sure that we push the NHS and the powers that be to create an effective care pathway for people who are living with interstitial lung disease, pulmonary fibrosis.
Okay. And the money that's raised, what's it used for?
Well, I mean, it's without it we couldn't survive. It's so important. We receive we receive no government funding and rely on all our donations for all our work. We're currently supporting over 10,000 people who are living with the disease. Therefore, it's essential that we have successful fundraisers to enable action for pulmonary fibrosis to thrive and make a meaningful difference to all those touched by pulmonary fibrosis. As I say, that's patients, family, friends, and healthcare professionals.
Okay, thanks very much for that, Andy. Okay, I think I'll wrap up. Just a thank you again for Andy for coming on. That's really good and explaining to us all about the charity. I'm not sure Tom and Damien really want to thank Helen for actually coming up with the idea, but hey, we'll thank her anyway. And Tom and Damien, it's just immense. Helen used the word in awe earlier, or the phrase in awe earlier, and me too. I mean, it's just brilliant what you achieved, and it's just thank you very much for doing it. And I guess to anyone listening, you'll find a link to where you can donate. I mean, sounds like there was a real challenge for these guys. So, let's see if we can raise some more money. Okay, thanks very much for coming on the podcast, guys.
Yeah, thanks very much.